The fluorescent lights hum softly above a cramped hospital examination room in Gary, Indiana. It is January 2012. A social worker, a nurse, and a frightened mother stand frozen in place, watching a 9-year-old boy stare back at them with eyes that, according to witnesses, don't quite look like his own. The boy is quiet at first. Too quiet. The air feels strangely heavy, as if every breath has to be forced into his lungs. Then, according to official reports, his lips twist into a smile that no one in that room ever forgets. The child slowly walks backward, then places his feet flat against the wall. According to a Department of Child Services case manager and a registered nurse, the boy begins to move up the wall, backward like an insect. He walks all the way up to above the doctor's head, flips over, and lands on his feet. The nurse later tells a police officer, "I was so freaked out, I ran out of the room." The family case manager writes in her state report, "This was not a trick. This moment, witnessed by medical staff and recorded in state paperwork, becomes the center of one of the most disturbing modern haunting cases in America. The alleged demon house of Gary, Indiana, and the Ammons family who swore it tried to destroy them." Gary, Indiana, once a booming steel town, had become a landscape of boarded-up houses and empty lots by the early 2010s. High unemployment, rising crime, and decaying neighborhoods made it a place where, according to residents, you could feel abandoned even in the middle of the city. In November 2011, Latoya Ammons, a single mother of 3, moved with her children into a modest rental house at 3860 Carolina Street. They moved in with Latoya's mother, Rosa Campbell. The house was a simple, one-story structure, small, with a basement and a narrow front porch. It didn't look special. It didn't look cursed. It was just cheap, available, and close enough to what the family needed. According to reporting by the Indianapolis Star, the trouble began almost immediately. The first sign was small, but unnerving. In the depths of a Midwestern winter, when temperatures outside were well below freezing, swarms of black flies began appearing on the screened-in porch. The family would kill them, sweep them up, throw them away. The next day they were back, over and over. Flies in winter, in enormous numbers, crawling on the screens and clinging to the windows. Rosa later said it reminded her of scenes for the Amityville Horror. Inside the house, the atmosphere felt off. The family reported hearing heavy footsteps climbing the basement stairs at night, then stopping at the locked door. They described the sound of boots, moving slowly, deliberately. Lights would flicker. Doors creaked open on their own. Wet boot prints appeared mysteriously on the floor. At first, they told themselves it was the house settling. Old pipes. Drafts. Gary was full of old, broken things. Why not this place too? But according to their statements, whatever was in that house didn't stay subtle for long. One night around 2 a.m., Rosa said she saw a tall, shadowy figure pacing in the living room. Thinking it was an intruder, she got up to confront it. But when she stepped into the room, the figure vanished. Suddenly, she felt a sharp, invisible blow, as if someone had punched her in the stomach, then shoved her backward. She recalled being thrown into her bedroom and unable to move. There were no bruises she could prove to anyone. There were no fingerprints, just pain and terror, and a deepening dread that the house was not empty when they turned out the lights. Over the next months, the activity, according to the family, escalated and focused on the children that Latoya's 3 kids, a 12-year-old girl, a 9-year-old boy, and a 7-year-old boy, began to behave strangely. They would stare off into space, their eyes reportedly rolling back in their heads. One child told a mental health professional that he felt like someone was trying to pull him under the bed. The daughter described seeing a tall, shadowy man in the closet, his eyes glowing red. According to the Indianapolis Star's review of DCS records, the kids would sometimes speak in deep, unnatural voices. They used language far beyond their years, often vulgar and violent. One moment they were normal children. The next, according to witnesses, they were screaming, growling, and showing what one case manager later described as possessed behavior on one particularly terrifying night. Rosa says she woke to find her 12-year-old granddaughter levitating above the bed, unconscious. Family members gathered around the girl, praying. As they prayed, according to their account, the girl slowly descended back onto the mattress. There is no official video of this event. There is no hospital report of a levitation. But this moment appears in multiple interviews and was repeated by the family to clergy and investigators. LaToya tried to find help. She contacted local churches, asking for a house blessing or an exorcism. Many, she said, didn't believe her or didn't return her calls. One small church finally sent a pastor to the home. He listened, prayed, and suggested the family clean the house with bleach and ammonia, then draw crosses with oil on every door and window. Desperate, LaToya and a friend also followed folk traditions they had grown up with. According to their account, they put olive oil on the children's hands and feet, tracing crosses on their skin. They placed Bibles open to Psalm 91 under their pillows. But the events reportedly continued. By April 2012, the situation had drawn attention beyond the church. The children are missing school. Neighbors had heard strange noises and seen the kids acting erratically. An anonymous report reached the Indiana Department of Child Services, alleging possible neglect or that the children were being coached into bizarre behavior. The DCS opened a case that on April 19, 2012, a family case manager, later identified in records as Valerie Washington, visited the Ammons home with a nurse from a local hospital. They interviewed the family. While they were there, they said they saw things that would haunt them for years. According to Washington's written report, the youngest boy's eyes rolled back into his head, and he began to growl. His older brother cursed in a deep, unnatural tone. The younger boy was allegedly lifted and thrown into a wall by an unseen force. The family claimed it was a demon. The case manager didn't use that word in her paperwork. She wrote simply that something moved him and that there was no adult close enough to have done it. The children were taken to Methodist Hospital in Gary for psychiatric evaluation. DCS wanted to rule out mental illness, abuse, or medication issues. At the hospital, the day that would later be called the wall-walking incident unfolded in an examination room. The two boys, their mother, grandmother, the DCS worker, a nurse, and a hospital staff psychologist were present. Stress was high. The boys were upset. The family insisted demons were tormenting them. The medical staff looked for rational explanations: trauma, delusion, suggestion. Then, according to both Washington's report and the nurse's written statement, the 9-year-old boy's demeanor changed. He growled. His lips curled back. He gave that strange, chilling smile. Then, without support, he allegedly walked backward up the wall to the ceiling, flipped over the caseworker's head, and landed on his feet on the floor. The nurse, named in reports as Willie Lee Walker, later told a Gary police officer that it was real, not a trick, not something he could medically explain. He said he'd never seen anything like it and hoped never to again. The psychologist who had been evaluating the boy reportedly ran out of the room in shock. The medical record from that day, according to journalists who reviewed them, focus on behavioral descriptions, not supernatural conclusions. But the DCS worker's official report explicitly mentions the wall-walking event, noting she was holding the boy's hand when it started, and that he had not used her for leverage. Because of the severity of the reports and concern for the children's safety, DCS ultimately decided to remove the kids from LaToya's custody temporarily. They suspected that, at the very least, the children were being exposed to severe emotional stress and possible coaching. One doctor who examined the family wrote in notes that LaToya might be suffering from delusions, possibly influenced by a cult-like belief system. The children were placed in foster care. LaToya was left in the house, grieving and terrified. The case, by now, had attracted the attention of local law enforcement. Gary Police Captain Charles Austin, a veteran officer, was assigned to follow up on the DCS reports. Initially skeptical, he described himself later as a believer after what he said he experienced. Austin and other officers visited the house on Carolina Street along with the DCS worker. According to police reports obtained by the Indianapolis Star, a series of unsettling events occurred during and after that visit in the basement. They found an odd pattern of dirt under the stairs. There was no concrete floor, just bare earth. Beneath the stairs, they discovered a small cutout area, almost like a shallow pit. LaToya and Rosa believed this was where whatever haunted the house was entering from. Officers noted it in their report, but did not draw conclusions. During the walkthrough, Austin's audio recorder malfunctioned. Later, when he played back what he had managed to capture, he reported hearing an unexplained, faint voice saying, "Hey," and another whisper that some listeners thought sounded like a growl or a threat. The recordings were never universally accepted as evidence of anything supernatural, but they became part of the lore around the case. The DCS worker, Washington, reported feeling lightheaded and strange while at the house. Her car later seemed to malfunction with no obvious mechanical cause. Another DCS employee who came later said her computer became corrupted when she tried to type up her report, that a photo taken by another officer outside the house would later show what looked, to many, like a figure peering out from the enclosed front porch when no one was supposed to be inside. Skeptics claimed it was a reflection, a trick of light. Believers saw a ghostly face and torso that at this point, the Catholic Diocese of Gary became involved. LaToya's family was devout, and they requested help from the church. The diocese assigned Father Michael Maginot, a priest from nearby St. Stephen Martyr Parish, to investigate. Father Maginot visited the home, met with LaToya and Rosa, and reviewed some of the DCS and police reports. He later stated publicly that he believed the house was experiencing a demonic infestation and that LaToya herself might be oppressed or possessed. During one visit, according to his account, a light fixture flickered, blinds dripped with oily residue, and LaToya's eyes rolled back as she growled and spoke in a different voice. He performed a minor house blessing first, sprinkling holy water, praying, reading scripture. When the problems reportedly continued, he petitioned the bishop for permission to perform a full exorcism. Meanwhile, the children remained in foster care. Psychological evaluations produced mixed impressions. Some professionals believed the kids were acting out under the influence of their mother's beliefs. Others were disturbed by the consistency and intensity of what they described. Eventually, the bishop granted Father Maginot permission for an exorcism on LaToya herself, not in the house, but on her body. Over the course of several sessions in 2012, he performed the ritual prayers in Latin. He later told reporters that during one exorcism, LaToya convulsed and cursed, and that he felt a physical heaviness leave the room when they finished. After the final exorcism, according to LaToya and the priest, her symptoms improved, but there was still the house. The peak of what made this case infamous was not just one incident, but a convergence of them: religious ritual, government documentation, and terrified professional witnesses. You have a mother claiming invisible forces are attacking her family. You have children behaving in ways that alarm seasoned social workers and doctors. You have a Department of Child Services report calmly describing something that reads like a scene from a horror film: a child walking backward up a wall. You have a police captain, not known for flights of fancy, telling a reporter that he now believes in demons. And you have a priest, authorized by his bishop, performing a traditional Catholic exorcism in 21 st century America, that eye in the cold fluorescent light of a hospital room. The wall-walking boy becomes the symbol of the case. In the dim basement under Carolina Street, that shallow dirt hollow beneath the stairs becomes its physical heart. Above, the house creaks and settles like any old structure. Below, officers and a priest stand in a circle, praying over soil and shadows. There are no special effects here. No Hollywood makeup. Just scared people, official forms, and conflicting interpretations of the same events. Over time, the practical outcome took shape. LaToya eventually regained custody of her children. Court records, according to media coverage, show that conditions were placed on her, including ongoing involvement with social services. But by late 2012, the family was reunited. They did not return to the house on Carolina Street. They moved out of Gary entirely. The landlord of the house, who had rented it to them as just another property, reportedly denied any knowledge of it being haunted before the Ammons moved in. He later said that no previous tenants had complained. After the family left, The house sat mostly empty in 2014. Television personality and paranormal investigator Zach Bagans purchased 3860 Carolina Street for around $35,000 after reading about it in the Indianapolis Star. He moved in equipment, cameras, and a small crew, intending to make a documentary. According to Bagans and his team, they experienced a string of disturbing events while working in the house. Unexplained sounds, strange shadows, sudden illnesses, and intense feelings of dread. Bagans claimed he suffered lasting eye problems he associated with the house. One crew member reportedly had a breakdown. These claims come primarily from Bagans' own documentary, Demon House, and interviews he gave around its release. They are not independently verified by law enforcement or medical authorities, but they echo the fear others described in 2016. After filming, Bagans had the house demolished. He later said he kept some of the debris locked away. The lot at 3860 Carolina Street is now empty, a patch of grass where a small, unremarkable house once stood. Tico passersby. It looks like countless other vacant lots in Gary, just another missing tooth in a broken smile of a city. But for those who know the story, it is a void with a history. The psychological impact of the case stretched far beyond the Ammons family. For LaToya, her children, and Rosa, this was not media fodder. It was a nightmare. They faced not only fear of what they believed were demons, but also suspicion from authorities who wondered if they were fabricating or multiplying symptoms. Their private horrors were laid out in court documents and newspaper stories, read by strangers across the country. Children who had once just been kids in a struggling Midwestern city became the possessed kids in online discussions and cable specials. For the DCS workers, nurses, and police officers, the case challenged identity and training. Social workers are taught to look for abuse, neglect, mental illness, environmental hazards, not demons. Officers are trained to handle violence, drugs, and crime, not voices on tape that no one admits to speaking. Some of them, according to interviews, try to rationalize what they had seen as stress, coincidence, exaggeration, or misperception. Others quietly admitted that they now slept with a light on. Father Maginot's involvement brought its own weight. In the Catholic tradition, exorcism is rare, cautious, and heavily regulated. When a priest says publicly that he believes a woman and her house were truly under demonic attack, it risks ridicule, but also affirms the deepest fears of believers that on the other side, skeptics and mental health professionals pointed to alternate explanations, shared delusions, suggestion, role-playing, the powerful influence of religious belief on impressionable children, and the stress of poverty and instability. They note that many of the most dramatic claims relied on testimony, not video. The hospital wall walking, for instance, was never captured on camera. Even within the official records, interpretation diverged. A DCS report might describe a bizarre event, but a doctor's note from the same day might diagnose delusional thought content, rather than supernatural attack. The horror here lies in that gap. If you are inclined to believe, the case reads like a meticulously documented demonic infestation, complete with priests, cops, and social workers as unwitting witnesses. If you are inclined to doubt, it reads like a tragic story of a family under immense pressure, caught in a feedback loop of fear, belief, and institutional overreaction. Either way, the result is the same. Real terror, real trauma, real scars. Today, if you stand on Carolina Street where the house once was, you will see an empty lot, some trees, neighboring homes, maybe a stray dog cutting through the grass. The wind blows across a place where, according to some, hell itself once pressed its face against the thin walls of an ordinary Midwestern rental. The city has moved on. New crimes, new tragedies, new headlines, but the paper trail remains. Police reports describing strange occurrences. DCS records documenting a child walking up a wall that a priest's written account of exorcisms performed on a modern American mother at a demolished house bought by a ghost hunter, then turned into a documentary you can stream at home. There is no final answer written in any of those pages. No official declaration that demons were present, and no definitive proof that they were not. There's only what people saw, what they believed they saw, and what they were willing to sign their names to. Perhaps the most unsettling part is not the idea that something inhuman might have stalked the Ammons family to it, is the realization that, under the wrong conditions, poverty, stress, fear, belief, ordinary people, institutions, and entire communities can become part of a story that feels like it should be impossible, that a story where a little boy in a small hospital room in Gary, Indiana, moves in a way that no one there can forget. And whether you think that movement came from a demon, a damaged mind, or the desperate power of belief itself, the result is the same: an empty lot, a broken family trying to heal, and a line in a government report that reads like a warning whispered from the dark. Somewhere tonight, another family is unlocking the door to another cheap, aging house in another struggling town. They will step inside, turn on the lights, and hope that all they've rented is four walls and a roof. The Ammons family once hoped for the same.